tia munene ta majuragano uici wa kiahinya hamwe na uhahami wa andu kimwiri ituiro rikoragwo ari kioho kia maica njera kana guitwo no kumana na kwaga utahuku mwega wa ituiro riri ni undu uthiite na mbere kunihia njiriri cia ituiro riri kuri mweri wa mugwanja mwaka muhituku wa 2023 hari cira wa uhahami wa ihoto cia kiumundu na uria wacoketio igoti-ini ni mwena wa marindi ria tuike kioho kia maica njera ta mugaru wa Gatiba rikiuga ati ni wagarari wa ihoto cia umundu mugaru na gicunji kia 27 kia Gatiba ya Kenya kiria kiugite ati mundu wothe ari na kihoto kiigananu.
A judge should be able to analyze the circumstance of each case and then have a determined ruling. From a human rights perspective, my take would be that the court ought to give itself discretion in terms of the matters they receive. A judge should be able to analyze the circumstance of each case and then have a determined ruling. When you are given the life sentence, it should mean a 30-year period. So there are some principles that aid people to arrive at such determinations is that the essence of punishment must have a goal. It should deter other members of the public from committing the same offense. It should reform the person who is being punished, and then it should have an aim so that once someone is punished, after they've served the punishment, then they are able to return or be reintegrated into the society.
Muhuraniri wa ihoto cia umundu Elijah Rotok oho gitariria bata wa gutia ihoto cia muturire wa mundu hamwe na macungirira ma ituiro riri.
Persons serving capital offenses are isolated, and so there is an aspect of loneliness. They are separated from the other inmates. There is family disintegration in the sense that a significant number that either were fathers or mothers or immediately has an impact in terms of what it implies that this person may never see the outside doors of prison, and therefore the family disintegrates. And also even to the family members themselves, there is victimization. There is that tag that the family carries that we belong to so and so who was either a murderer, who was a robber. Yes, so eventually that stigmatization also has a negative impact. Even to the offender themselves who are serving sentences, we've noted that it has a health impact in terms of once that sentence is committed to you, psychologically it torments you, and it also has an impact. You start developing diseases that before the conviction you didn't have.
Musirithania munene Justice Martha Koome akoretwo muhari-ini wa mbere hari guthingereria guthurimwo weru kwa mutaratara wa ituiro wa mwaka wa 2023 na uria utanyitwo kunyihiria kioho kuri aria matuirirwo kioho kia maica njera hamwe na aria matungatite kioho miaka 30.
There is a proposal currently to suggest that it should now mean, when you are given the life sentence, it should mean a 30-year period.
Mundu o wothe ari na kihoto gia gutukana na andu kiria gikuruhanagia ihoto cia kumba kuyandikithia kana gwikuruhania na mihango ya ikundi o ciothe. Gicunji kia 36 gia Gatiba ya Kenya gikiheana itua ringi rinene iguru ria mutaratara wa ituiro kuri mweri wa Septemba mwaka muhituku. Igoti inene rikiheana itua ria andu a Ndugu cia Huura Umwe gutukanaga matari muria, undu uria watumurire urugari kuri muingi.
We have been trying to register the National Gay Lesbian Human Rights Commission for the last 1.5 years, since April 2012. And in May this year, the government sent us a very, very distasteful letter saying that they would not register.
Itua riri rigicokia na thutha mwaka wa 2013 riria Mukenya Eric Gitari ageretie kwandikithia gikundi kia andu a Ndugu ici cia Huura Umwe, undu uria watungirio igutha gukirikana ati ritwa riria riahuthikaga hari gikundi giki riari ria urathoni, undu uria wacungiriire kinya Ndugu ici kwirikana ni mugaru wa watho.
Supreme Court was faced with a decision of deciding whether the freedom of association as guaranteed by the Constitution. So we have the freedom of association under Article 36, and we have equality and freedom from discrimination under Article 27. So the argument from the government side was that these two rights are not unlimited. They can be limited in certain ways. And in this way they are saying they're limited because the association is of an outlawed or a criminal activity. So the same way we use Mungiki and stuff, that's what they were relying on to say that now we can't register an association of gays and lesbianism based on the outlaw by the penal code.
Na tauria arobi karani anatariria gukinyira itua tariri ti undu muhuthu.
These two rights are not unlimited. They can be limited in certain ways. And in this way they are saying they're limited because the association is of an outlawed or a criminal activity. So the same way we use Mungiki and stuff, that's what they were relying on to say that now we can't register an association of gays and lesbianism based on the outlaw by the penal code.
Na tauria arobi karani anatariria gukinyira itua tariri ti undu muhuthu.
The decision of the Supreme Court was not unanimous. 3 supported the registration and 2 opposed it. And the argument was coming up from our constitution and the freedom of equality, freedom from discrimination. What happens is that we borrowed so much of our Bill of Rights from the South African Constitution back then in 2010. Now if you look at our Article 27.4 on the requirements for discrimination, it talks about conscience, belief, race, gender, sex, but it doesn't talk about sexual orientation. And it is the one thing that is missing from the South African Constitution. And so the judges that were not agreeing to the majority decision were saying that the framers of the Constitution did that deliberately and intentionally, that sexual orientation was omitted from that right from discrimination because it is not supposed to be there. But now the majority side, that's composed of DCJ Mwilu and Njoki Ndungu and Smoky Wanjala, was of the opinion that the freedom of association and the right to assemble should not and cannot be curtailed by legislation, because at the end of the day the Constitution is the supreme law of the land.
Nayo thafari ya kihiko yukaga na maundu makio ari hamwe na kwiheana kunene no indi riria kwagia thina na andu menda gutigana guthiaga atia na makiria hari ugayani wa utonga. Kuri mweri wa Januari mwaka wa 2023 igoti karu bururi-ini niriakorirwo rikiheana itua iguru rigi ugayani wa indo na gatagati riria endwa eri matigana na rikiuga ati ugayani uyu wa indo na gatagati maru wa watho na rikiuga ati mundu aragiriirwo kugairwo kiria mundu egwateire we mwene.
For you to have matrimonial property, so you have to belong to that marriage. Now that marriage has to be declared broken down, or you have to divorce, so that now we can come to what is matrimonial property. So the case was between a man and a woman who married in 1990. They divorced in 2016. Once they got divorced, they went to the High Court for division of matrimonial property. The High Court awarded the wife 30% of the matrimonial home and 20% of the rental apartments and the income. He didn't go further to the other landed properties. Then they went to the Court of Appeal. When they went to the Court of Appeal overturned the High Court decision and said we will share everything 50-50.
Gicunji kia 45 kia Gatiba ya Kenya nikiheanite kihoto kia o mundu kwigwatira igai na njira ya uigananu riria kihiko giatura. No na kuri uguo igoti rikiuga ati gicunji giki gitiugite ati gicunji kia 50 harĩ igana ya utonga kihiko-ini niguo mundu agĩrĩirwo gukorwo akiamukira.
So the argument is still out there, but what was the import and what brought about the argument is that now we have to prove that contribution. It has not been made clear or guideline given that this is counted as contribution and this is not counted as contribution. But now we cannot rely on the fact that now we are divorced and we were married, so it is 50-50 regardless of what was happening.
Bururi wa Kenya ni bururi ukoragwo na gatiba ihimbiirie Demokracy mwaka wa 2023 ugikorwo ari mwaka uria watiga bururi-ini hari kigeri-ini kinene kia matua manene ma kiwatho. Handũ-inĩ ha Mũthingi TV, heria kwa ni Mwandiki wa Maruru.